Manziel was pulled over in Ohio last Monday while arguing with his girlfriend. Manziel admitted to drinking earlier, but police said he did not notice signs of intoxication. Manziel's girlfriend, Colleen Crowley, attempted to get out of the moving car and Manziel veered. According to the police report, Manziel left a friction burn on her wrist while trying to stop her. Crowley told police that Manziel was pushed her head against the glass of the car, but she was not fearful of his actions. Neither was arrested or charged. Johnny responded to the incident via Twitter. Colleen and I got into a dumb public argument on the way home Monday afternoon. It probably looked more interesting than it was, and I know I would stop and check if I saw a couple arguing on the side of the road. It was embarrassing, but not serious. And when we talked to the police and they realized everything was all right and I was sober, we went home together and everything is fine. Manziel could be subject to discipline under the NFL's personal conduct policy. The Browns have said there's been no change to Manziel's status with the team. Skip, what is your take on Johnny's future?
Molly, Stephen A., this is yet another sad chapter in the life and times of a guy that I still love, Johnny Manziel. Love him on the field, love him off the field. But now, Stephen A., I fear he's on his way to failing in the National Football League because clearly, to me, he just failed at rehab. 10 weeks he was in rehab, as you recall, in the offseason. And again, I have to hark back to my experience growing up with a mother and a father who were alcoholic. Father drank himself to death. Mother saved herself by going to AA, where she still goes to her meetings every Monday night. And she would tell you, if she were sitting here right now, after being sober for many years, if she took one drink tonight, she would crash and burn. She would fall completely off the wagon because she would tell you she has the disease of alcoholism. All I know for sure about Johnny is if he thinks he can have an occasional drink after rehab, ain't going to work. Going to have repeated problems and incidents at a time when, wouldn't we all agree, he's on a zero tolerance policy here after all he's been through, especially with the Cleveland Browns. And what I don't quite understand about the police report, the police said that they decided he was not intoxicated, yet he admitted to them that he was drinking earlier that day. I'm not sure 2 + 2 don't quite equal 4. I don't know why he would have to divulge that, but he did. So I'm going to hang my hat and my argument and my concerns on that. He said he was drinking earlier in the day. I also have questions and problems with how physical he got with his girlfriend, and I think the league will have further questions about that. The police decided it looked like he was trying to restrain her from exiting the car as it was moving, hence the burns on her wrists, but also there was something about he shoved her head against the window. I have no idea exactly what went on. It was not good. Was not good for Johnny Manziel. And what you learn when you go through these rehabs is you have to remove yourself for anyone you used to drink with, anybody who could lead you down the wrong path. Again, you just have to remove yourself. You have to cut ties with everyone. And this is I'm not trying to cast aspersions on the girlfriend, but if you're going to continue to associate with her and she's going to continue to drink, it just might lead you the wrong direction. So you're going to have to be careful with that. Either she's going to have to stop drinking or you might have some issues. And clearly he had, I only know this day in this police report, they had issues. He had issues that the Browns are not going to like and the rest of the National Football League is not going to like. I've been advocating, I wish the Browns would cut him. And after this, do you think anybody else would now pick him up? I'm not sure about that because Johnny he's tail spinning. It's another, I tried to fix myself, but I couldn't fix myself. And it's just so hard for me to talk about. It's sad for me to talk about. And my bottom line, and maybe I'm reacting emotionally here, I don't have a good feeling about the rest of his football career.
You are reacting emotionally. What I would say to you, however, is that you have every right to act emotionally, to react emotionally. Number one, because of your background with your parents, which I am highly sensitive to whenever you're broaching the subject of alcoholism, because you know. So I definitely get where you're coming from. Not to mention the fact that, you know, the kind of adulation and support that you have shown to Johnny Manziel, both professionally and personally over the years since you've known him, met him, talked to him, etc. When I initially heard about the report, to be quite honest with you, I was wondering how fair it was to Johnny initially, because all we had heard is we hadn't heard about any kind of domestic violence. We hadn't heard about him possibly pushing her head up against the window or doing any kind of physical harm. What we heard was that his cell phone was thrown out the window and they were arguing on the side of the road. Well, if somebody took my cell phone and threw it out the car while I'm driving, you're damn right an argument is probably going to ensue. And so I'm here thinking, you know, I'm thinking that, you know, you probably got a text message, a phone call from somebody you might not should have. And the girlfriend got upset and took the phone and threw it out the car. So I'm thinking along those lines. But then as the hours went by and you started hearing details, then you're like, oh no, this is not good.
Not good.
And then when I heard that alcohol was smelled on his breath, I said, Monday's going to be an interesting day. Because I know Skip is going to have something to say about this, and I don't blame him one bit. When you have acknowledged the fact that you are an alcoholic, you're an addict. And when you are an addict, you can't go anywhere near whatever it is you're addicted to. It doesn't matter if the dose is minimal compared to the dose that you're accustomed to taking prior to entering a clinic or whatever. The key is to avoid it. You know, it's almost like that individual that is tempted when, you know, when it comes to women, or in the women's case with men, or whatever the case. You know, you know, it's not about, oh, I can stand in front of it and resist it. It's about avoiding it.
Don't put yourself in the situation.
Don't put yourself in a situation where you could be exposed to the thing that tempts you the most. Avoid it. That's the best way to alleviate yourself from that situation. Johnny Manziel clearly is not doing that. Now, we can look at the girlfriend, and if she's drinking too, it's like, well, that's an even bigger problem, because you know he's got a problem, so why are you doing that around him? Because that ain't helping him, but that's a different argument and a different subject for another day. At the end of the day, the level of culpability falls on the shoulders of Johnny Manziel. When I saw Bill Cowell on CBS and his comments, in one breath, I was like, damn, that's harsh. And then I said, but he's right.
Cut him?
He's right. Yeah. And here's why. Because it's similar. Think about what we just debated a few days ago with Steve Sarkisian at USC. If Pat Hayden had stepped in when he showed up to that pep rally to preview the Trojan season, and he had addressed him at that moment, made him go into rehab, suspended him from coaching the team so he could get some help, Steve Sarkisian might have a career right now as the head coach at USC, as opposed to being somebody on the outside who people are speculating will never be the head of a program again. The only thing he can hope for is a coordinator's position, because you can't have him heading your program because you're asking him to be a leader of young men when he can't lead himself. And how Pat Hayden could have alleviated that by addressing it with the fervor necessary from Jump Street. He didn't do that. Well, how come that doesn't apply to Johnny Manziel? Just because he's a pro player? Right now, for those who care about Johnny Manziel, as much as I hate to say it, it may be best to cut him. And if you remember what I said, Skip, a few weeks ago, when was I most concerned about Johnny Manziel?
When he's not playing.
It was when he wasn't playing. I said the second they gave that job to McCown. To me,
I agree.
If Johnny Manziel, and I'm not saying they should start him because of him, please don't get me wrong, but if Johnny Manziel was the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, having to prep every week, now, it's not Cleveland's fault. They got to pick the best quarterback for them. And he's a professional. You got to work at being ready every day. So if your number's called, you're ready to go. No excuses. But I believe if Johnny Manziel was the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns right now, I don't think this would be the situation. Maybe in the offseason, but I don't think right now this would have happened. It happened right now because Johnny Manziel had time on his hands, and at least in his mind.
Hypothetically, if they cut him tomorrow, would anybody quickly pick him up?
Nobody would touch him. Because if they cut him tomorrow, the belief would be we're cutting him because he still is battling alcoholism. If you know, at least that. That would be the belief.
I got it.
And they're not taking that chance on him. They would cut him. If they cut him today, no one would touch him. No one.
Well, there's always Jerry Jones in Dallas. You never know about him. He loved Johnny coming out of college, but
you can't. I love me some Johnny. I love Johnny football. I think he's a great person, believe it or not. Very nice guy. You can't put Johnny Manziel in this state. You can't put him in Dallas. Oh no. That's temptation. You can't put him in Dallas. Can't go to Dallas. Can't go to Miami. Keep away from those two places.
And to your point, idle time's the devil's play.
I'm talking about the idle time. I'm not talking about the organizations. I'm talking about the idle time in those two locales. Can't put him there.
Too many of these stories lately. I hope he gets healthy. Tom Brady facing an old friend, Darrelle Revis, next Sunday. But will Brady get stuck on Revis Island? We'll preview that big AFC showdown. That's next.